There's not a lot going on in the world of Doctor Who at the moment. We're in that kind of regular sort of lull between series where we're just waiting for the next run of episodes to start. In this case, the first season Fortune to Get was Doctor, Season 1 or Series 14 or whatever we're calling it. But there is one story that came out this week that I did think was worth talking about. Something quite interesting involving Doctor Who and AI. It's worth noting that the article I'm about to talk about, the original article from the BBC themselves, is not still available to view. It might have been taken down, that'd be a problem with it, but yeah, that would kind of suggest perhaps that maybe there's been a change of heart about this since the news was made public. But yes, basically the headline, as Radio Times puts it here, is that the BBC is experimenting with generative AI to promote Doctor Who. So like I say, this started off life as an actual BBC article on the BBC website, and it was about BBC programmes more generally. It wasn't just about Doctor Who. I think they were saying that they're kind of going to roll this out across a load of programmes, and that they've chosen Doctor Who to sort of start off an experiment with, as we'll see. The broadcasters announced it'll be creating a human-written marketing copy for a Doctor Who push notification, email subject line, and in the promotional rail on BBC Search, before using generative AI to suggest alternative copy. This will be reviewed and approved by the BBC's marketing team before being shown to audiences to promote the Whoniverse collection on iPlayer. David Housden, head of media inventory at the BBC, said, "Experimentation is at the heart of how we approach marketing at the BBC. Testing and learning on how we let audiences know what BBC content is most relevant to them, and we know they might love, slightly odd English there, but anyway, underpins our digital marketing strategy. However, experimentation in marketing typically requires more time spent on the creative work to make extra assets. Generative AI offers a great opportunity to speed up making the extra assets to get more experiments live for more content that we are trying to promote. We're going to take it one step at a time, starting simple and learning as we go. We have chosen to start with Doctor Who, as it's a joint content priority for both BBC Public Service UK and BBC Studios marketing teams. There's a rich variety of content in the Whoniverse collection on iPlayer to test and learn with, and Doctor Who thematically lends itself to AI, which is a bonus. The success of the AI generative copy will be measured by click rates, open rates, and post-impression conversion rates across each channel. And we're potentially already starting to see this in action. So in the latest Doctor Who email newsletter released last week, at the bottom with all the legal guff and copyright information, it says, "As part of a pilot to improve the effectiveness of our communications, some of this email may have been written with the assistance of AI, brackets, and reviewed by our team." So there we go, Doctor Who is starting to experiment with AI, not the main show, not the actual production of the show, but the marketing for the show. And based on the wording there as well, and I've seen other people point this out as well, I don't think it's actually the marketing of the current series or the future episodes, season 1 for example, but this seems tailored, for the moment at least, to the Whoniverse collection on iPlayer, so all the archive stuff, and presumably experimenting with that archive to find new ways to supposedly make it more accessible and to reach new audiences. Either way, people aren't too happy about this on social media and just generally, in fandom. There's that quote which has been going around on social media and stuff about Doctor Who thematically lending itself to AI. Loads of people have kind of picked up on that and said, well, yes, it does, but not for the reasons that you're saying it is. Because, yes, there's a rich history in Doctor Who of, AI and super computers, stretching back even to the 60s with things like Wotan in the War Machines, Boss in the Green Death, Zoanon in the Face of Evil. All these sort of cautionary tales about, what can go wrong when stuff like this happens, and kind of speculating about, if these things were taken to their logical kind of conclusion or extreme, what the worst case scenarios could be. And obviously those stories I've mentioned and others as well, they're science fiction tales, they're stories, that they're fiction, they're exaggerated and kind of, taking things to an extreme that hasn't yet happened in real life that we know of. But even so, Doctor Who has been very consistently against stuff like this over the years and presented these supercomputers, whatever, as villains, monsters, whatever it may be. Even more recent stories like Smile, with the emoji bots, where they get things, woefully wrong by kind of misunderstanding basically what the humans, the colonists, require from them. Or Kablam, where automation has taken over with factories and productions and all sorts of jobs and things, and there's only like 10% of the factory workers that are humans, and the rest of it is all robots or automation, whatever it may be. These tales are always very consistent with their approach, with their messaging. Computers get stuff wrong, that they misunderstand, that they misconstrue, and particularly with those more recent stories, they're very big on that idea that yes, you can sort of have technology to some extent. Of course we do in so many aspects of life, and it's only going to increase going into the future, but you also have to have that human component, that the two things working together in tandem, humans keeping their eye on the ball and making sure computers don't, get too big for the boots or get the better of them or kind of take over, for want of a better phrase. The two things have to work together. You can't have computers or AI just replacing humans. Now, in terms of AI and generative AI, I am no expert myself, but this stuff has been pretty ubiquitous, particularly in the last year or so. The technology has been around in various forms for a while, but we're now at a point where it's all come together and is quite readily available, and these kind of developments are coming quite rapidly. We've had things like ChatGPT kind of everywhere and kind of widespread available to use, and it is now posing a massive threat to the creative industries. AI-generated art, for instance, there's a massive kind of conversation around that at the moment because it is quite morally dubious the way it works. It takes all these existing sources and then creates something new that's based on those existing things, but the people that created those things in the first place aren't being paid or credited. It's basically a shortcut to create something new without having to credit someone or pay someone, or in actual fact, you wouldn't have been able to create that thing without all the work that other people had done. There's also the kind of uncanny valley thing when it comes to AI art, where it either looks off or looks a bit wrong for reasons you can't explain, or sometimes for reasons you can, like it's given someone 6 fingers, or you zoom in and the dots don't quite join up. There's maybe like seam lines on clothes that don't kind of run the way they should, or patterns, or things that are just wrong, little details, little things that a computer has got wrong because it doesn't understand how these things work. So I think people are right to raise their eyebrows at this and be slightly concerned about Doctor Who experimenting with AI marketing. The way it's being implemented here isn't the worst potential way that it could be implemented. It's kind of the early stages, but I suppose that stuff could come later, kind of worryingly. And even with something like this, where something is being generated and then reviewed or edited or approved by a human, by a real person afterwards, it's still a little bit sus. Like, okay, maybe this AI will generate some really interesting stuff that no human could ever have thought of, but on the other hand, there are certain things, like I say, that computers and AI can't do, and where you need people, and particularly in a creative field as well, you really need that human touch, that human input, human ideas, whatever, human understanding. Yeah, it just seems a bit off, and maybe it's being misrepresented in the press and stuff. Maybe this isn't kind of as bad as it looks, but yeah, it still doesn't look great. What are your thoughts on Doctor Who using AI in its marketing going forward? Are you for it, against it, whatever? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you've got to say about this. Please do leave a like if you have enjoyed this video, and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more stuff like this in the future. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.